to compete. It's insane. It takes like billions of dollars to even make like anything, to even run your operations for a couple months. It takes hundreds of millions of dollars. Even with a
Yeah,
small startup like Rivian, they'll probably burn through like $400 million. They'll get that funding from Ford and they'll burn through it in like less than a year.
Mm, mm-hmm. I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you were telling me about your design though. You said a parallel circuit mount.
Well, yeah, like see, like how it works is so there's two batteries, and the two batteries, each battery charges, each battery powers four motors. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a motor in the rear end and a motor in the front end. I'm just giving a very brief explanation of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a motor in the front and a motor in the back on each drive shaft. And there's two batteries instead of one. The reason there's two is because the whole concept of the vehicle, what makes it better than any other driving electric car on the road right now is it doesn't need to be constantly plugged in to function. It is run off a regenerative power. So with the two batteries now, in the rear end, there is a motor there, which is on the drive shaft, which powers the rear end of the vehicle. Then in the front, there's a motor which powers the front end of the vehicle. Then, with that being said, there's another motor in the back and another motor in the front. And these two additional motors now is where the regenerative energy comes into play. So you can think about it as, just for a brief example, these two second motors I'm talking about, the second pair of motors, they're connected to an alternator, you could say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you apply your foot on the gas, the first two motors are powering each axle set, the front and the back. It's driving.
Mm-hmm.
And now the other set of motors, the other in the front and the back, those are spinning an alternator, regenerating energy into the battery.
Mm-hmm.
I see, like I'm at my cousin's house, so I could have showed you easily on my notebook, but I left my notebook back at my house because I didn't know we were gonna hop on this call.
Now let me ask you,
Yeah.
where are these two additional motors that are hooked up to the regenerative alternator? Where do they get the surplus energy from? Where are they basically stealing that energy and putting it back into the system?
The
How are they
motors,
getting
the
it?
motors from the battery, from the battery.
So there's okay, you got two batteries, you got four motors. You got the first battery and the first two motors doing really the work of the acceleration and the movement of the vehicle. And then you have your second set that is getting all of its energy while the other pair is working.
Um, I think you explained it right, but just to briefly go over it, yeah. So the reason there's two batteries is because they alternate their usage. So say
Mm-hmm.
battery one is outputting energy into all four of the motors. When
Right.
when battery one is dead, battery two would already been charged up because of the two regenerative motors sucking energy back into the circuitry. So the first two motors on the drive shaft, there is no regenerative energy there. That energy is lost, but it's gained
Mm-hmm.
because that's pushing the vehicle. The two other vehicles now, the two other motors now, sorry, are
Mm-hmm.
what are regenerating energy when pressure is applied to the gas and power is
Mm-hmm.
outsourced to the battery. So it runs
Mm-hmm.
back in to the second battery.
So um, there's an issue with that system, and it's that you can't create energy, which is what you would need if that system were to function. You can't create energy for free out of nothing. Everything, it has to be borrowed for somewhere else. So regenerative energy and regenerative braking is it's not really that new of a concept to the automotive world. They're approaching it in different ways nowadays. Like they're doing some clever things where they'll have a gas motor that will be running an alternator in a small compartment of an electric vehicle that will kick on whenever the battery starts to get to a low voltage. And they've been for many years they've been using when a vehicle's braking because that's what locomotives do. Locomotives have been doing this forever. When the train knows it's going to slow down, rather than hitting brakes, which is just a waste of energy, you're just clamping down, slowing the wheels down. It will kick on a really heavy duty alternator that's connected to that axle. You'll have the, transmission connect to that thing with like a solenoid or something, and it'll power that alternator, and the alternator will slow down the train. And that's what it does in a lot of these cars nowadays too. But
Is that
you can't charge that battery. So you got one battery here outputting energy to make the car move, and then you got another alternator over here sucking energy out of the first battery. So it's a net loss. They make each other zero because one is outputting energy, the other one's sucking it, kind of. You know what I mean?
Well, an alternator, maybe I have. Well, isn't an alternator what transform mechanical energy into electrical energy?
It is, yes. But
So
you're
it
but you're what you're doing is you're taking electrical energy, converting it into mechanical energy. Then you're on the other side of the vehicle doing the same thing, only the opposite. You're taking mechanical energy and converting it to electrical. So you're bringing electricity in and you're putting electricity out, but it ends up being a net zero because one outputs it and one inputs it. That it would be a total zero if you were in like a vacuum where there was no gas. Because actually air impedes. It slows down a vehicle when it's moving. Like it's like a brake. It's like
yeah.
moving through water is really different. So if you were in a vacuum with no gravity, then that system would just basically be zero. But because we're here on Earth, that system would actually have a loss because you're using some energy to move forward through air and fight gravity, and then the excess of that energy will then go back on the other alternator.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So, well, I'm gonna draw it here real quick because even from what you've said, makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, and you're making some sense. But even like there's components that I'm missing out because I don't have the exact. So even for example, now like, do you know what an inverter is?
I have to look it up. Like,
And an inverter is an electrical component that can up the voltage of an input.
oh yes, yeah. But
So
okay, so when you up the voltage, you decrease the ohms and the wattage. So electricity has those three components, and
mhm.
you might be able to you can increase the voltage on something way up, but you're gonna lose watts and you're gonna lose,
Okay,
you
so see,
know.
there's also another component called a variable frequency converter, and
Okay, yeah.
that now can change exactly everything you just said because it changes the frequencies of the current.
Hmm. I'm not exactly sure because electrical is like, of the whole mechanical world, electrical is the thing I probably know the least about. So I really can't offer a whole lot of advice on that. But what I can tell you um, is that, and I'm just being a complete realist. I love your ideas, and your passion is going to take you so far in this world. It will. So you gotta keep going with that. That's awesome. But take just for example, General Motors. Here in Detroit alone, they probably have over 1,000 electrical engineers, and
Mhm.
they've been playing with regenerative braking for decades, like 40, 50 years. And they know all about those things. They know about transformers, inverters, variable frequency,
Even
all that stuff.
I want to let you finish, but even
Mhm.
why I feel like is a very simple reason why maybe the concept which because a lot of like even if you look at it for example now, say a video game. A lot of video games that come out nowadays are complex. Nobody likes to do things simple anymore.
Mhm.
And that sometimes takes away from the tenacity and the engagement that you can fully get from simplicity. And what I'm trying to get at is I feel like yes, there might be billions of people who are out there on this planet who have way more knowledge than me, but
Mhm.
they're trying to push forward without looking back to the original roots and make it simple. Because even like a Tesla now, for example, a Tesla, that vehicle is very simple, but it's actually quite complex. But it's actually very simple. Whereas if
Mhm.
you look at a hybrid vehicle now, a hybrid vehicle is so much more complex than a Tesla is. A Tesla
Okay.
is it's simple, two motors,
Mhm.
and then you have a whole heap of gadgets that make vectoring, torque vectoring, and all sorts of other analyzations, which are little small things to make the car perfect. So like, I don't know, even with the idea with two batteries, there's not a car that has two batteries, except for like the battery that is just to charge your electronics in the vehicle. But that's not what the two batteries are for. These two batteries is for a sense of alternating. And yeah, and I get your point though, is yeah, what I'm trying to figure out really and truly personally is to understand if my circuitry has any flaws, because that's what my vehicle, I look at it as a circuit. I don't really look at it like it's a combustion engine, for example. You know what I mean? It's a circuit. It's a circuit. Because all of these components play a part in transferring electricity. That's what, it's not even like a Tesla, because a Tesla is just two motors. Mine is like a whole circuitry. You know what I mean? Like including inverters, transformers, capacitors, resistors. All of these things are going to be necessary.
So let me ask, tell us about the variable frequency converter and how you had, I believe, was getting energy from one motor moving while it's in motion, and you're taking energy from there, but you want to convert it. And was there any storage of energy happening? Or tell us about, like, I think that's what I had remembered correctly, and I know that I don't know, but I think that it was being stored into like the other battery while it was in motion, so that you could like
see.
have storage.
I'm here trying to read you. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm gonna explain because I do have a picture on my. I'm gonna see if I can read you out quickly and show you guys. But so pretty much how that works is, it's like, give me a second here. Sorry, I'm trying to redraw this photo real quick. It can really help the conversation. So you're asking me about the variable frequency converter. So like, to go into detail, the power comes out of the two batteries, but only one battery gets used at once. So imagine battery 1 and battery 2. We're going to talk about battery 1 right now. And while battery 1 is outsourcing power, battery 2 is being charged. So battery 1 now is hooked up first directly to a converter, which a converter or a variable frequency converter, you can call them the same thing. So automatically, the voltage and the watts and the ohms that's coming out of the battery is being upped because of what a variable frequency converter does. That's what it does. It actually changes the power that is ran through that component. That's what it does. So from there already, yeah.
I was wondering, is it change the, like, I feel like the energy and the power would stay the same. Like I was confused about how it would like up the energy. Like, is it?
Well, because
it comes in and
it actually changes the frequencies. It changes I don't know how to explain it too well, but I understood that, like, no, like a variable frequency converter, like, say for example, if you were to hook up a variable frequency converter to a fan, your fan would spin faster.
It takes more energy, right? So like,
yeah,
that's
like,
why I was confused. That amount of energy is there. You want to double up the energy, but it's gonna like dwindle and like use itself up in some way.
It's the analog, so it can go up or down. So you can literally make it like use and power more, or you can make it reverse and, like, use less. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that
ideally, you'll be able to run on less and like be able to store it. It seems like.
Yeah, you could, but I'm not thinking about it that way still, but that's true.
Okay.
I was thinking about upping it. You up it now, and now it goes into the motor. Okay. And now the motor is connected to I want to have the motor connected to a CVT. If you know the CVT transmission is.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, like this is what I mean. Like, I think this part is a really sick idea. I think this part's a really cool idea, and I want to make it come to work. I want to have a motor, like an electrical motor, connected to a CVT, and then connected to a differential, which is on the axle. So therefore, I have good torque. I have good torque control. Because
I love the simplicity of it. And I've always thought the same thing. Like, why don't they make cars this way nowadays? Why do they make them so complicated? Because people want gadgets and they want like all these options and things that luxuries and whatnot. Yeah, it's nice and simple. I like that about it.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, appreciate that. So after now the motor connected to a CVT onto the differential onto the axle, so the power is coming from the variable frequency diverter, from the battery into the motor. Then it powers the CVT, which drives the wheels. So now the wheels are being driven in the back end. In the front, it's the same thing. So now the wheels are being driven in the front end. Also, the battery is now powering another motor, which this motor I want to have connected to another CVT, because that what it essentially does is it makes the motor use less power, because a CVT is a conventional way of I don't know how to explain it, but you said you know the operations of a CVT.
Well, what you do is you get a higher when the CVT spins and the centripetal force makes it expand. You're changing the gear ratios, and when you change gear ratios, you might get more speed, but you sacrifice torque for that. So that front motor, like it's really just playing with those two. So you're like going like this. You either got a lot of torque and no speed, or you've got a lot of speed and no torque. So the CVT, I used to wonder about this thing all the time too. Like exactly the way you are thinking of it, I used to think about this too. Why don't they do this to a car?
They have CVTs.
So if you think about your vehicle as like the closed, like the circuit, right? You mentioned like this, like it's a circuit, right? And you would agree with me that it's a closed circuit, like it's a closed circuit. The law, and this is just like one of the most basic things scientists have been trying to break this law in any way they can since the beginning of time, of conservation of matter, says that you can't create energy out of nothing. So if you have a closed circulatory, like this closed system, somehow that second battery has to charge faster than that first battery depletes. You know what I mean? The way the engineers have been trying to solve that issue today is by sticking a second gasoline motor in the back of the car that runs continually, and it's more efficient than a normal gas motor because it can stay at the same RPM the whole time. It'll never, you know what I mean?
I hope you're a cool guy. And you're not gonna steal my ideas.
No, absolutely not. I'm not. No.
I'm just kidding with you.
Time for that.
No.
He's not as much of a dreamer as us, Devonte. We'll be the ones that run with these ideas that change the world. Don't worry.
Yeah, man. The corporate world has crushed my dreams, man. I'm just here to crush yours.
On a threshold right now.
Bro, if you help me bring up my dreams, then one day I'll help you bring up yours, bro. But
let's do it. We can make a deal on that for sure. And you know what? I think me and Kelsey both know somebody who actually would be able to give you the real technical, like the small level of detail that you need. Keegan.
Oh, yeah. Keegan would be very willing. I actually just saw him a week ago.
Yeah, Keegan.
I didn't know Keegan knew all this. I thought he was more like
batteries.
To be honest.
He loves batteries.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Keegan knows a ton about batteries, and he could at least get you started with resources and whatnot. But that's like his thing. He loves messing with all those power converters and charging batteries and stuff. And he was explaining to me a little bit.
I had two questions. That I missed. Right, I'm taking notes here. Right. One was blank. It says something makes the motor use less power. Devonte, could you repeat what that was? What is it in your plan that makes the motor use less power?
Okay, well, yeah, he explained it more clearly. What I was trying to say is pretty much not that it makes it use less power, but the motor speed, the motor rotation speed doesn't have to be as fast because this is connected to a CVT. So it uses the gear ratio, and the output shaft will spin just as fast, but the input shaft doesn't have to because of what the CVT does. But you made a good point, my friend. Now I do understand what you're saying because even someone I said this to, they said the same thing, like you can't get energy from nothing. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't fully understand it, but you explained why it's essential in a closed circuitry form. And there's a piece I'm missing out of the whole conversation, which my friend pitched to me the other day. And I was like, damn, the missing link. And it's so simple. Solar panels.
Okay.
If I just had a solar panel in the top.
Yeah, that's a real possibility. But let me ask you, or let me say, if you have a solar panel on top, why even bother with the second battery and all the mechanical stuff that needs to come in with the second battery? Because that second battery is just creating weight. which is
Wait.
more mass that you need to accelerate, which costs more energy. So you make the vehicle super light, you make the vehicle super cheap, and you make it just simple as hell, and you make that thing work. I would love it, and I would for sure buy it because I hate cars because they just keep getting more and more and more expensive, and I'm like, well,
Everything like
how far is it going to be before, like, nowadays it's like people feel normal buying a $40,000 car. I'm
yeah,
just
man.
like, what? Like, give me something that's like 5 grand and will last me a couple years.
Rush
No one's
talk, bro.
making that. Nobody's thinking about it. GM just said they're going to get rid of all their sedans, like, going forward. Ford, I
Wow.
think they're going to probably do the same thing. Everyone just wants to make big, complicated SUVs.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's the thing. Like even the way how I vision the vehicle too is like I'm trying to make it slightly smaller than the average car you see. Just
Yeah,
slightly smaller because with all of those things, weight,
yeah,
price, I want
yeah,
it to be like I want it to be fast on the
yeah.
road.
Uh-huh.
But no, like you made and so like with what you just said, I thought about that too. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of because I don't have all the answers I need right now, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't take my second battery out because I thought the exact same thing. As soon as he said the I need to know that a solar panel will be able to generate just as much power as I would need it from the battery. Maybe I
Yeah.
can get a small battery, not such a large one, but because so far the batteries each have to be like 700 volts, 800 volts.
You're gonna be huge.
They will
But
be
they have
huge.
to be. They have to be. They have to be. You could get away with smaller batteries if you had less weight, and then you
Mhm.
could reduce the amount of energy you need in that system. But that second battery that's basically its only source of energy is leaching from the mechanical momentum of the vehicle. So I'll get rid of that whole second battery out of your whole setup. The second battery and the second thing is its source of energy is the mechanical motion of the vehicle, which no matter how you slice it, no matter how you dice it, you're always going to be stealing energy from that first system.
I just wanna clarify, you're still right, but I just want to clarify they both actually do that same function. How it works is they would alternate. So when the first battery is dead, the second
Yep.
one
Then
will
the
be
system would
up.
do it. Yep.
Yeah, and then it would swap. It'll
No,
go
I
back and forth when it's dead.
I understand that, but okay, so then you can think of it as system one and system two. And the system two is the one generating the power, the regenerative source. That will always be sapping. It will always be stealing a
Yeah.
little bit of power from the first. You won't be able to get any extra energy out of that whole setup. In fact, it'll cost you energy just because it adds weight.
I want to ask you a question. If you know the answer, so even from the get go, why I wanted to do the two battery system because this could still work with one battery. This could
Uh-huh.
still work with one battery, but
Mm-hmm.
my interpretation was, if you look at a phone now, if you use your phone while it's charged forever, your phone's gonna shut off because it's gonna overheat.
And
So
the
is it the same?
battery likes to deplete. The battery likes to deplete too. Lithium ions like to go through cycles. So yeah.
They like to like empty out. You're saying, and then like be like refueled.
Yep. And they like to, and as the battery ages, that battery cycle, it's called a battery cycle, changes. And eventually, over time, like every battery has a life. And this is a major problem for all electric vehicle makers. The biggest thing I'll tell you the electric vehicle makers are focused on that everyone cares about when a new electric vehicle comes out, the most important number that everyone pays attention to is range. So that's like basically tells you how much juice that battery has in that vehicle, like with its power and everything, how quickly it uses the juice out of that battery. But then you got these cycles too, recharge cycles. So when a battery is brand new, it's going to hold, the most it will ever hold. And then it's going to, as it dies, it gets to this point where it either will not be able to power the vehicle, you got to recharge it. And when you recharge it, that cycle shortens as time goes on. But it's it's bigger than that. Like it's more complicated than that because
Yeah.
actually it will like to be recharged at certain points better. Like it's like the whole thing moves. But anyways, you were gonna ask a question, something about battery or
Okay. So yeah, you explained a lot about that because yeah, that I kind of like you explained it better, so that's good, and I do understand that. What I was getting at is really it's like now, so because as soon as he mentioned the solar panel, I understood how it could fit, but I haven't quite fixed it in yet because everything revolves around these two battery circuitry. So even if now I could say I have battery 1, because like even like you made a very good point, and that was a problem for me too myself when I'm like thinking about even for me wanting to, because these batteries each are gonna cost me like almost $5,000 each. I
Whoa.
already like I already looked up, like these batteries are not cheap.
Yeah.
Like, the batteries are gonna cost me like one of the most out of everything. Like literally out of everything, the batteries are gonna cost me the most, almost.
For sure. For sure,
So
that is the truth for the makers too.
it would be very efficient if I could just use one battery. So
Yeah,
even with
you
that,
would.
yeah,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
sacrifice weight. No, like it's okay. Um, but I'm just kind of just trying to wrap my head kind of around. I guess maybe this is something I can do it myself too, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around sense how I can incorporate the solar panels to replace one battery, because my functionality was what you were saying, sapping off of each other. But now that it's not a now because now it's not a closed circuitry anymore, which is
Well,
okay.
now that I think about it, the solar panels, they can't. I don't know if they. I don't, like I said, I don't have a ton of knowledge on batteries or electrical engineering, but um, I don't think you can charge a battery while you're simultaneously discharging it. So those solar panels might need to charge an intermediate, like a battery that's going to work as a like a extra store, and then once this battery's dead, that'll swap over to the other one. It could switch between the two, and then one will be charging, one will be. I think that's
So
how you would have to incorporate it.
So I probably honestly would have to stick with the same idea. Maybe one battery could just be smaller. And with that being said, now it would be like a closed circuit, but it's not, because I would have a direct like I'm thinking maybe what the solar panels can be powering is additionally fueling always into whichever battery is not being used. So
Yeah,
just like you said, because the second battery has to be filled before the first one dies.
yeah. Well, the function. So like the way we'll have to, like, so go back to that circulatory example. That second battery, the smallest you could make it is like the maximum that solar panel could output.
Say that.
Given, I'm sorry, what?
No.
Given
Sorry, I want
that's
to write that.
that's given that your solar panel is not able to produce as much energy as what is being used by the vehicle. Because if it could, then cars would just run on solar panels. You know what I mean? The solar panels, the technologies is not to the point where the amount of energy you need to use can be taken out of this solar panel the size of a car. But then actually people have built a solar panel car before. Have you ever looked it up? It's actually legit. It's super cool. And
I have.
and they powered this thing, but you know how they did it though? They did it like in a desert on a salt flat where there's no change in elevation. So it's much less work when you're on a straight, like imagine you're just riding your bike on a bowling alley forever. It'd be pretty easy. Like, so they took this car out there, and it was the smallest, slimmest little car ever. The person in it was like this. And they took that thing and they could ride for free.
I mean,
It was.
are they getting more advanced with that? Is it able to convert more energy? Because I mean, I've seen stuff where
Yeah.
it's like solar panels, just like not like football fields worth of those things can power like one house. Like that's what I've just seen. But like that was dated stuff from Michael Moore. So you know what I mean? Like I just don't know if that's like the technology is getting better.
It's much better. It's definitely much better, but it's not to the point yet where like you're gonna be able to run a vehicle on them. You know, like if you have a bigger home and you put them on your house and you live in an area where you get more sun, you could probably, and you had a very very efficient home. That solar panel might be able to like power everything you need if you have a very low energy demand lifestyle. Like if you don't play a
What
lot of
other
games.
wasted energy is happening in a car? I feel like there's wasted energy in many places, or like just opposite energy coming that,
There
and there's like
is.
some surplus.
There
So like,
is.
what else is there that can be utilized? or brought
Like
from a different place.
like even at one point, I was thinking about this funky idea, but this is just too funky. Like this is too much
So place
mechanics.
the funky ideas and we'll keep them and like
Just
see how they go.
Yeah.
just having safe. Just look at it basically pretty simple. You see the axle. This is the axle, and
Mhm.
having a gear. Say my ring is the gear. Having this gear on the axle, so as the axle is rotating,
Mhm.
it's connected to some sort of generator, you can call it, because those wheels are spinning. As soon as you put your foot on the gas, that axle or whatever is rotating in that part, that's rotating fast. The faster you go, the faster it's rotating, meaning the more
Mhm.
power you can generate. So even that, like, I don't know, like that's a little funky idea that I always try to incorporate, but I was like, nah, that's too much.
It's kind of doubling up in some way while this is like working. You're kind of like connecting it to another gear to keep an extra round of energy. I'm obviously not sure if it would work, but interesting.
Yeah, it would
So
work.
Devonte, that's very similar to the first concept we were talking about with the two batteries. Basically, your axle is still the source of the energy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And um, they they've been doing that with cars with regenerative braking. So when cars are braking, that's big time wasted energy. In fact, when cars brake, they wear down the brake pads and it puts a bunch of heat in the brake pads, like all that heat.
so I heard you explaining the regenerative braking earlier. I haven't actually looked into that yet because I said that's complex, and I'll get there if say when I make the car.
It's pretty
But what
simple.
do
I
you?
can explain it. I can
Yeah,
explain it real simple the way it works. So your idea is exactly what it is, but there's this. Okay, so you got the you got the axle connected. In your idea, you got the axle connected to the alternator all the time. Whenever that axle spins, the alternator's spinning, right?
N- not actually. No, it's
Oh,
more
so
like
some
that was like a little theory I had at first. No, more it's more like what's connected to the axle is the differential. What's connected to the differential is a CVT, and then the CVT is connected to the motor. So you can say the
but
motor connected to the axle, but it's not actually directly.
okay, right. Well, sorry, I didn't mean. You do have some more linkages, which we
Yeah,
would call like a simple transmission, or like
yeah,
basically a transmission. But it's always on though, correct? So
yeah,
whenever the axle's spinning, this alternator in the other world is going to spin with that. It'll spin faster, but it's going to spin whenever that axle's spinning, right?
yeah.
So with the regenerative braking, the only difference is that that little tiny thing that starts to hold the axle and the differential to the CVT to the alternator has a little tiny piece in it that breaks it apart. So it's not always spinning, and it only spins when the person wants to apply the brakes. So the person wants to apply the brakes, this little solenoid comes in, which is just a little gear that goes to another gear. Like it's just like here's these two gears.
Kind of
Imagine
like
this.
a clutch.
Yep, just like that, just like a clutch, just like a clutch. It could be just like that or 100%. And so it would just, and then the motion would happen and the shafts would spin. And that's
Oh,
basically, but it's only when you want to brake, because at that point you don't you can steal all that forward energy going on in
Yeah.
the vehicle. The vehicle's moving and it has all this potential energy. Just take it, and use it to brake rather than like squeezing the brakes and heating up these brake pads.
wow.
Why don't they do that
That's
right
all it
now,
is.
Raj?
That's 100% what regenerative.
That's what regenerative braking is. He's explaining. So they've been kind of doing it in some cars.
Okay.
And they've been
That's
doing it in trains forever. They've been doing
Yeah,
it in trains
that's what I thought you
forever.
said earlier.
And one thing that's crazy, Devonte, why a lot of these cars don't have it nowadays is because there's this whole nasty world out there that's like built to destroy dreams. Don't ever do it, man. The business world. Ugh. And
Well, go
like
on.
certain things will cost so much money for no reason. So like regenerative braking, they'll just make those parts more money because they're like, oh, we want everybody on gas or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like there's
and yeah.
whenever like somebody's making a ton of it and everybody has it, it's cheap. But when it's like a specialized thing yet at first that hasn't had widespread acceptance, it's just more money for no reason. Like there's really no reason why it should be more money.
You
It's
know
just
why it
more.
is? And this is what I was telling Kelsey. It's because there's too many selfish rich people on this planet. They just
Yeah.
love
Oil
100%.
companies run this show right now. So
Right in?
that's
100%.
I said the oil
100%.
companies run the show right now, and they can kind of keep, people listening to what the prices should be for stuff. But like, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it'll be better soon. But
Yeah, that's kind of it. But you got a great mind for this stuff, and you're thinking really big picture and creative, and that is so good. That is so good for you. Like it makes your brain get like it really does. It helps with everything. Like it'll help you with like going anywhere you want in life. Constantly be thinking about these things because when your brain is trying to solve a problem, it's like a muscle. It's getting like stronger to try to figure out how the heck do I now solve this next problem. Now that's your next problem. How do you get the free energy into that system? Where are you getting that free energy from?
I'm
And it's
right.
out there.
Yeah.
took some notes I'll send you too. But you should write always.
Yeah, and I can give some notes to Kelsey too about things you can look into. And whenever
Right,
you
like I
got
think looking
questions.
at that regenerative energy on trains, looking into like obviously what's been done already is, as Faraj said, it's true that 100,000s of electric engineers are here in Detroit, like for sure already, like what's already been done. I haven't seen any of your market sensing on that part, but and then too, this whole like the solar energy, like other sources happening where like wasted energy, where does wasted energy exist and how can you kind of transfer that or utilize that? Potentially using the renewable stuff as well, like what's been the updates, like the latest that's been happening with solar or others, and how that can kind of put, like look into the solar cars. Like I just go there, they do exist.
Yeah.
They're obviously like not on the market, but they exist.
Devonte,
Yeah.
I got a good thing that you could look into. Question that just came up in my head. It would be awesome, like if you could like. So regenerative braking, when you turn that axle on and you convert that energy to the alternator, right? That alternator is like a force of resistance. It's like a brake, right? And it's only gonna create like a certain number of units of electricity. Let's say it's like 100 units, because that's just the setup of the alternator. How would you make that alternator get more energy than just 100 units? For like example, like if you were braking at 100 miles an hour, you have a lot more energy that you could spin that alternator way faster if you were braking at 100 miles an hour than if you were braking at 5 miles an hour. If you're braking at 5 miles an hour, there's not a whole lot of potential energy to steal out of that system. You know what I mean?
That's
What
a
what
would
I'm
take
trying to say,
to go 100
what I'm
miles an hour, but
like what I'm trying to say is like a variable alternator, like an alternator that could like in real time adjust its resistance so that like when you're braking only at a few miles an hour, it's not going to brake that hard, but when it's braking at 100 miles an hour, it's going to try to like slam on the brakes, like an alternator. Because you know what I mean, like if you just have an alternator and you try to fight that alternator, it's going to have the same level of resistance all the time. Is there a way to make that alternator variable so that the amount of resistance that alternator generates is like way more when you're braking fast and then less when you're braking slow? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I'm
I
writing
don't
this
know if
down.
that. I don't know if
That's,
that's.
worth looking
no,
into.
that's something I will have to look in because see, the one thing about my car, what I'm trying to do is like this is gonna be for my version at least. Like this car's gonna be hella fast. Like that's been my goal for my main this car.
Sick.
Be hella
Yeah.
fast.
Hell yeah.
So with what you just said,
ride.
with what you just said, that's something I'm gonna have to figure out. And I get what you're pretty much saying now is because, and I'm gonna have to understand a little bit more how the braking works. But I get a basic idea of what you explained to me. It's like I can think about it like a clutch. When this is the wheel spinning like this locks in, and then so when the alternator is connected to say the gear that's spinning the wheel, like when they connect together, does the alternator have its own force that's bringing it back? Is that what's happening right there?
The alternator is like a heavy chunk of metal, and it takes energy to rotate it. So when you rotate, like there's this thing at the Henry Ford Museum. It's basically like a crank. It's an alternator with a hand crank, and there's a bunch of light bulbs on it, just like if you were at the circus when you take the sledgehammer and you slam it down on that little tiny, bell, and it makes that thing shoot up, and if you hit the top, it bangs. You know what I'm talking about? Well, that's what it is. It's a row of light bulbs. So as you spin this thing, you can see how many light bulbs you're able to light up. And if you spin the thing like super hard, you can light up like 10 light bulbs. You know what I mean? But if you weak, then you can't get
So
much out of it. So the
so what
alternator is like that, Does it make Did I answer your question? I
so
don't
what
think I
my
answered.
question is um what I'm trying to say now is how does okay I'm gonna research it, so whatever you can explain to me, I appreciate it very well. But
Yeah, for sure.
because when the car is driving forward, and
Mhm.
say this is the wheel and whatever is connected right here to it, it has a forward motion. So
Mhm.
for the regenerative braking to work without it being a disc brake, there needs to be
Mhm.
a backward motion, correct? Is that how it works?
Uh, yeah, yeah. There's a force that slows down the axle, but I wouldn't think about it so much as like forward and backwards. What it basically is like adding an extra load on that axle. So that axle now has to you know power the car going forward, and it has to power this alternator.
Oh, so it's kind of like I would have to. So it's kind of like pretty much. So the alternator that's connected there, when you put, oh,
When
so
you
that's
turn
why
it on,
it
when you
gets
turn it on,
detached.
like you
So
remember, so it's so hard to crank this thing, right? This thing is super hard to crank.
and then
When
it's
you
like I
connect
put
it,
my and then it's like I
yeah,
put my hand on it, and that makes
on
it
the
harder
axle,
to, and
yeah,
that's so that's
yeah,
what it
because
is.
now because that axle now has to power that extra axle connected to it, which has this opposite force. It is like an
So,
opposite force. That's how you want to think about it. Yep.
so you're because I'm trying to figure out because I'm breaking down because what you said was really sick, bro. How to make I pretty much got like a variable alternator resistor, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like
That would
the
be
same.
dope.
You put your hand on it. This is moving forward. You put your hand on it, but what
Mm-hmm.
makes it variable? I'm thinking like,
I don't
ooh,
know.
that's really cool, bro. I'm gonna have to dig into that stuff. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to dig into.
How do you make it variable? Now the CVT might be part of the answer because the CVT, as you have more speed, you're going 100 miles an hour, your centripetal force is greater. That size of that gear is larger. So that gear is going to be bigger. Therefore, it's going to take more to make it do one rotation. So the CVT you might be able to like a miniature small CVT that would be cheap and affordable, something like that. And then you know, something like that can get picked up by the automotive, I mean, or even just focus on that and then be a supplier and just build these miniature CVTs that you can, this way, instead of getting only like this much out of that braking power, you can get like this much. And it doesn't have to be like twice as much or even like 10% more. If you can get like 4%, 5% more out of like a system of extra energy that someone else couldn't, then it's big. Like these improvements that people make nowadays on vehicles are so tiny. They're but when you look at the whole system, it's monumental because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of vehicles, all of them saving a gallon of gas per year. It starts to add up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's pretty good, bro. It's pretty good, man. I like because yeah. What you said about the CVT is kind of what I was thinking about too. Still, that's the only way I was thinking right now. But yeah, that's sick still.
So
So
do
like,
you what kind of ask me? I want to ask you about
yeah.
YouTube. Like, what are your sources for this knowledge? You obviously have definitely some knowledge about this stuff. And what kind of channels you subscribe to?
Um, some electrical channels, some engineering channels, some guys who like explain circuitries. There's only a couple of them who I'm subscribed to, and then most of the other videos a lot of time I look at things and I figure out what I want to figure out. So say if I want to figure out, say like even for example, the other day I was trying to learn how to power. Yeah, this is kind of the next thing too. I have a kind of shaky idea for this. It's pretty much how to power, because I've been trying to figure out how does Tesla power their front part of their vehicle with the motor. But it's kind of simple, but they have the technology to make it simple. They just have like a broken in half differential, you know what I mean? So like pretty much each arm is on each side of the differential, which is simple, but I don't have the technology, or do I have that supplier? But now what I'm trying to say now is like pretty much how I do it is I just look at what I want to figure out, and I watch a bunch of videos on the same topics, and I just poke and prong at what I need to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have like any channels in particular that you really like, or?
I can tell you one still. I can tell this guy's a good guy.
This one dude, I don't know. He does topics from all over the place, but Smarter Every Day. He's pretty good. He's pretty square, but at the same time, he's not as like boring as some videos out there where you got just this like dude from India like with a chalkboard. You know, I've seen a lot of those videos, man.
Those chalkboard videos are kind of good sometimes.
Sometimes, but I mean, yeah, they are. You're right. When you're trying to go to bed at night. Trying to take a nap. I'm tired.
I got Learning Engineer. You know Learning Engineer?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one before.
Subscribe to them. Subscribe also. Anytime someone who posts a couple good videos, I'll be like, all right, I have a lot of subscribes. You know what I mean? I just subscribe to anyone who posts anything good.
Yeah, I like Learning Engineer because it's got the animations, and that's how I like to learn it.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. You can see all of that.
I like to see how it actually happens. You know, how the whole thing really works.
100. That's exactly what I'm gonna try to figure out about the breaking.
Yeah.
There's this next guy though. I can't find him right now. You put some cool videos. Right? He's like a teacher, bro. Do you have any other questions? I would love to answer if you do still.
You know, not right now. As you start to move forward with it, you know, we could talk.
Devonte, I'm gonna put everything that I took pretty good notes. I took thorough notes. I took extensive notes, but I know that some of my notes are incorrect. So I'm gonna put on a document for both of us to access, and you should just kind of like vomit out questions and things, and any videos that you're watching or new areas you're like looking for. And then when you have somewhat of a new plan or whatever this leads to right now, we want you to be able to like key in, as Alex said. We could do something with him next. I mean, and Faraj, you can stay involved. Obviously, we want you to stay involved.
Yeah. I like this guy. Cool guy, bro. Appreciate it.
You too. Thank you. I like you too, and I like where your mind is going, man. I really do.
Man, I appreciate your inputs, bro, for sure. Strong inputs, man.
No doubt. Thank you.
No capping, no sugarcoating. That's what I like.
That's how I have to do it. You gotta be real.
Right.
You guys just woke me up, so I'm feeling good.
You were sleeping?
No. You woke me up. I was sleepy. So it's hard to say because I get.
You don't work the night shift. Are you sleeping during the day?
I don't at all. But anyways, I'm gonna close it here. I do have to get some other things. You guys can stay. I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna send you this, Devonte, and give you access, Alex, and you guys can both just, if you're both going crazy finding resources, keep them here in one place so that you can kind of play off each other and play off of like ideas in the same document is all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got any more questions for me, Devonte? About anything? About life? About the whole question of it all? About regenerative braking? Whatever you want to ask me.
You think pretty much I do still. So you said you're into You said you're into like kind of the business part of like the world, kind of like
Well,
manufacturing.
I wouldn't. So the word into, it's
Mhm.
not something that I love or I'm interested in. That's not really what I would do with all my time if I didn't have to worry about money. But somehow
What
I
would you?
found my,
What would?
what would I do with my time?
Yeah, if you could.
I'll live in the moment. And right now, like if I could do anything right now, it'd probably be cook a bunch of crazy food for like a week, you know, and then I'd go into like finding some new music, and then I'd probably get myself a motorcycle next week, you know, and I
Jeez.
just get it like tuned up. I start playing with it, so I know it all. This way, springtime comes, you know, I'll be planning out some trips. I'll be like going to Canada. I'll be doing a southern trip. I'll be doing a northern trip. I'll be flying. I'd learn how to fly, you know. Like that's
That's
what I would
sick.
do. But I fell into business because just like that's what everyone around me told me what to do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really kind of had a strange background, you know. I was privileged in a lot of ways to like be around a lot of people who had money and had influence. And it was, you know, always kind of this game, like, you know, like in the like just people push you into a certain thing without you even really realizing it, you know. But so yeah, I've been around this automotive world because it's the only way to in Michigan you can do that. Like make you know that's the whole Michigan is the automotive world. But
Yeah, I hear that. That's, bro. That's, you know what I mean. It's similar for a lot of people, man. We just we're stuck in the cycle of just work.
yeah,
Like even myself, man. I've been working for I've been working on and off for the last like 3 years of my life because I love my damn free time.
mm-hmm.
But like, bro, like even just now, I got this full-time job and I'm gonna work for like some months. I need to save up my guap. But like,
Yeah,
damn, you don't even go to work. You come home and you're tired, bro. Like, what is there to
yeah,
do for yourself? Go to work and you're tired,
yeah,
bro. It's like, man,
yeah. You
man's
either
want to live
like
life.
you either like restore your body or try to use up your years. You steal from your later years to try to make something more special, like to live a little bit more now. You know what I mean? Or you just
Mm,
basically save yourself for a boring ass retirement. You know? But like, yeah, I kind of got a question for you now. I kind of wanted to hear a little bit about your background. Like, what's your passion? What's your interest? What would you
my-
do if you didn't have to worry about money? And also, where do you want to be? Like, what do you want like for work? And I hate that idea of work, but like, what would you want to do? You know?
I want to make music. I love making music. I rap, and I
Yeah,
want to make music. Yeah,
straight
that's
up.
why even when you said that, guys said looking for some new music. I was like, cool, cool.
You know
I make
what?
music.
My man, some kids at work. You know, some like some lame I want to say like Unish, like white boys coming in. I'm like, what's the new hip hop? They're like, listen to this, and I was like, I wasn't feeling it, man. I don't know if that was just because they got this like, you know, their background or whatever it was, but like I'm more old school. Like I grew up, my rapper that got me into rap was Pac, and I know everyone says Pac, right? But like then it was Nas, and then it was Common, and then it was like these lyricists, these guys that just had like these crazy messages, you know. But like, I don't know. What's your dig? What do you like in music? What do you listen to right now?
I don't listen to music now at all. Music now is trash. I agree.
For real. So
Music
what's your
is
deal?
trash.
What's some of your favorite artists?
Well, like to tell you the truth though, some of my favorite art, my favorite artist is Gucci Mane. Gucci Mane inspires me a lot personally. Gucci Mane is just a G fam. Like
That was
the way how this guy,
Jen. I
huh?
just put your song in here too, Devonte, that you sent me. Which that's
Oh
on
hell
YouTube.
yeah, lit.
Yeah, I forget where they were. I can't find where they went, but yeah.
Wavy dog. I like that. Gucci. Hey, I remember when I first came across Gucci Mane on YouTube. I was probably like, when was it? Like 2007. And I was like, oh, shit, this dude is so hard. Like he's like
Gucci,
making these videos and he's already famous. Like he could go to jail just for this video. And then he
uh,
did.
a lot, like, and it's like I don't know. I always like Gucci Mane's like his flow and the sound is just different, fam. I just comes from Gucci Mane,
Yeah.
like you're just cruising on the beats, fam. I love his beats, but I used to listen to a lot of Gucci Mane I don't know. Do you know who 21 Savage is? These are some newer rappers.
Of course I know 21 Savage. Yeah, I like
Alright.
21 Savage too. And there was one guy who came up. Well, Lil Nas X kind of I linked them like 21 Savage. You don't do you like Lil Nas X? But I kind of like Lil. I liked a few of his songs, like my
Lil
Louder, I
Nas?
think it was, or Money Got Longer. Money Got Longer, Forget Louder.
That's
Is that
Lil.
Lil Nas
That's
X?
that's Lil Uzi Vert.
Oh, Lil Uzi Vert. That's the dude that I'm linking with 21 Savage. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Around
Yeah,
those
yeah,
times, at 16.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thing, and I love
That.
it. And I'm sorry, what?
Nah,
You guys
that's
stay.
okay.
I'm gonna go. If you don't mind,
Yeah, Kelsey,
I gotta do some things for graduation tomorrow.
it's
But you
cool.
guys stay. I put the document here and gave you
All
access.
right,
Bye.
all right.
You guys are great. This is really fun.
Bye, Kelsey.
All right,
Bye.
enjoy your night.
Thanks.
Yeah, Gucci's heavy. That was actually one of my favorite Gucci Man songs. Now I think back on it. Off this, he had this album. I think it was called Lemonade or something like that.
Lemonade. Yeah, I know that one you're talking about.
Yeah, man.
Like 2016 was like the last year of good rap, in my opinion. 2016, 2017. After then, rap, hip hop music, mainstream rap music got garbage. Like everyone started mumbling and abusing auto-tune, and it's like
So you don't like Future?
I used to like Future, but Future's not even good no more, at least. Like
But I feel like sometimes people fizzle after they get paid too much. They're like, like, what the hell am I gonna do? Keep making music for? Like, I'm just gonna go straight to like living life, and I don't blame them for that. But there's some Future I do like, and I don't know. It's unique when you think about that because, like, who do you think that like Biggie or Pac would have thought that rap would have moved in this direction where like people could be like changing the game with like a sound like Futures? And like people will hate on it, but honestly, I think haters just gonna hate anyways. But like if
yeah,
somebody's making something and you feel it, then that's music. Like if it, you know what I mean? Like if it's just like if somebody feels it, then it's real. Then it's music.
that's
And
me.
it's
Like, you know what makes me different in the music game?
uh,
I make Christian music.
okay.
But not only do I make Christian music, I make Christian rap.
For real?
And I be going on the trap beats that you be hearing on the radio, like those type of beats.
Yeah, dog. I like that. That's different. That really is different. I like that. I
Thanks,
really
bro.
do. I
Thanks,
like
bro.
those heavy, dirty trap beats. I really do. And I always
That's-
thought like, if I could imagine myself like as a rapper, I don't really spit, but sometimes for fun, like, I like to like just kick around like some things. And I'd imagine like, I would come to a trap beat with like a different message. You know what I mean? Just kind of like what I've lived through in my life and how it's different. Because
yeah, that's a big
it ain't gonna be
fact.
heavy. It ain't gonna be heavy like, it ain't gonna be like about like crazy shit because like I grew up white. So
Like,
like, it was never like crazy, but but I don't know.
I lie, like on the trap beats, everything is just, I don't know, like I met Christ like a couple of years ago, and I just been changing my life since then, and just trying to, just live more godly according to what God says and stuff. And yeah, like
Mhm.
I stopped listening to trap music because even personally, like I don't know, the message that it gives me, I just don't like it anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't relate with it anymore at all. Like it just, I hear it and it's like talking about killing people and all of this crap, and it's like it's just so much drugs and
Mm-hmm.
abusing girls. Like I don't know, man. It's like so much. Like it's like, when is this world just gonna be more peaceful?
I know. I think about that too. I do wonder if this is like the storm before everything kind of like calms down a little bit because we've been advancing in a lot of ways, but we've been like going backwards in other ways. You know, we move forward with our technology, but we're building a world that's like less and less desirable for anybody to want to live in. Who wants to live
Mm,
in a world where like 100 people have a lifetime fitness gym on Mars, and then
it's
and then everyone else has this like planet that's
retarded.
been polluted?
It's retarded.
It is. It is. It's very stupid.
And well, so you asked a little bit about me too. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, I live in Canada and I came from an average household, nothing really rich at all. Average household. And just got into trouble and stuff. And I guess I got older. I kind of just had to like change up, and I don't know. I just started getting creative with my mindset, fam. You know, I just started trying to think out the box and try to see what I can do for myself. Because if I don't do anything, then it's just gonna be like whatever. I'm just gonna let
Yeah.
life take me.
Yeah.
So even with that being said, like I have a video game. I created the idea, but it's not fully done yet. And that's about it. So that's all I want to do. I want to make my car. I want to make a game, and I want to be a rapper.
I really like the game. I really like the car, and I really like you being a rapper. And the only advice I would really have for you right now at this point about that is don't get discouraged. Because I've been discouraged before, and it did nothing but cause me headache and trouble. Your life is like it's like a plant, and like the more you water it and the more you feed it, the better it gets. And the best time to start watering it and feeding it was 19 years ago, but the second best time is right now. You can't change anything that's been done in the past. All you can do is change what's going forward. And the fact that you're 19 and already thinking about this stuff is really positive. But the hardest challenges are right around the corner, because that's like right around the time in life when people like, you know, put in and grow, or, stay the same. And that's
Yeah,
like, one thing you got to pay attention is like your friends, what they think about, what they talk about, kind of, are they helping you achieve your dreams, you know, or are they going to hold you back from it?
it's true. It's a big factor. Like I've heard it before, but you just said it in a good way. You said it in a really good way. Still, it's true. It's true, man. Even like you said like a plant, man. But
Mm-hmm.
Mohundo, bro. Mohundo, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Now that I just looked at my book again, I did have one last question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
And pretty much this is like I'm trying to think how to word it. I don't know. Like when it comes to I need to figure out how my circuitry is gonna work first. After I figure out my circuitry, how I was thinking about it was I'm gonna have to buy a welding set and learn how to weld. It's not too hard. But I was gonna like just buy like a go-kart frame, like a dune buggy frame or something, and just build off of that. Or do you think I should
That's
just build
what
like
that's what you should do at first, and then just figure out how your propulsion is going to work, and then yeah, man. Even if it doesn't work, you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. A go
yeah.
kart, that would be dope, man. Oh, I love that. I see people doing them everywhere because I live right here on 8 Mile in Detroit, and everybody's doing that with go karts and like these little tiny bikes. These
Yeah.
small like they're even smaller than mopeds. They're like little tiny, and they have
Oh,
lawnmower
pocket
engines.
bike?
What are they called?
Pocket bikes, I'm pretty sure. Like they're
Oh
small,
yeah.
small
Oh yeah, we used to call them pocket rockets when I was a kid. I
pocket
used to
rocket.
have one of those pocket rockets,
Yeah.
and you could do that, and then figure out from there, and
Yes.
always remember that like even if it doesn't become the next Tesla, you're gonna learn about a lot of things that will open doors for you in life. Like when people hear you know these things, like bro, I can't tell you one time I got a job that was like my first job that got me into like the business world, all because I knew these things about cars. And I'm not an engineer, but like the owner of the company, as I'm walking out for the interview, is like, "What's that?" And he points to a picture on the wall, and it was a camshaft. And I was like, "That's a camshaft." If I wouldn't have got that answer right, he wouldn't have hired me. But I got that
Mm.
answer right. So he goes like, "Okay, this kid knows things." Like, because I'll tell you what, like 90% of people in this world don't even know that. They don't even know how a combustion engine works. Like for real.
Yeah.
You can take girls to a museum and be like, yeah, this is how it works. And they'll think you're so smart. But for real, it's,
Pistons. This all goes in
yeah,
there.
piston goes up and down. And I'll show you what
Up
else
and
goes up
down.
and down. But yeah, I mean, that will help you get like to a better place in life.
Yeah.
Um, I think sometimes people get discouraged when they find out that like they're not going to be the next Tesla or they're not going to be the next Google. I mean, those are things that's the truth. That's the reality, you know. In order to be Tesla, you would have had to been born like 40, 50 years ago, because Elon Musk made like $300 million off of eBay. He built the website that eBay bought from him. Like he did some technology with online bidding and
Did he
sales.
really?
Huh?
Did he really?
That's how he made his money. So what Elon Musk did was he did something simple as hell. Like he built a website back in the day when nobody was doing it. And then it turned into eBay. eBay bought from him for like $375 million. And then he took that money and got a bunch of investors together because he's hanging out with all these rich people. And see, that's another thing about life. Like there's statistics that show that like if you just live in an area where there's a lot of rich people around you, and like you talk like them and dress like them, statistically, you will make way more, because you're gonna end up like hitting it off with one of the girls in the neighborhood whose parents are this or that, and then you'll be, huh?
Yeah, I said whose dad is rich. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you about to score like big time, and then you're gonna be rich. Like so, like Elon Musk, he went from like he's smart as hell too. He was Ivy League, and then he got $400 million and was hanging out with a bunch of people. Like, so he was able to tell them like, I think I can build a car company, and people are like, you're crazy, you know. But then he did it because he got investors to pull in, and they, you know, I mean, but you know, to have that happen again ain't gonna happen. But you know, plus it was the '80s. Like everybody was making money in the '80s.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, you know, it was the '90s, late '80s, early '90s. But yeah, man, we should talk again, and you know, keep thinking of ideas and stuff, and like, you know,
Okay,
keep
definitely. Well,
thinking.
definitely get back to you on some later notice.
All right, for sure.
Sure, bro. Appreciate the talk, Alex. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, no problem, Devonte. Be good.
Thanks
Have
for
a
helping.
nice holiday.
All right, you too, man.
All right.
God bless.
God bless. Later.